I used to think that all movies should be about something and you should learn something and this, that, and the other. And it's like, no. Sometimes I've got shit to do. I don't want to listen to music. I don't want to have silence. I want to put on a movie I've seen 400 times because I just know it's there as noise. And now I can fold the laundry or fucking make lunches. Or, or, you know, whatever the fuck I've got to do that's like mundane bullshit that I would shoot myself in the face if I didn't have something to distract me from.
I got my blood drawn today.
Oh.
And the phlebotomist was telling me, she's like, oh, what'd you do in your fourth? I was like, first of all, I don't remember what I did this morning. So I had to think for a second. But then she said, yeah, you know, I went to my kids went to, you know, all the crowds and the stuff. And then I went to my friend's house and we watched Lifetime movies and it was great. And like, there was a time where it'd be Lifetime films aren't cinema. Like I would,
yeah.
And now I'm like, that sounds fucking awesome.
I know. It's true. Yeah. It's just like you want the movie equivalent of comfort food. I don't watch Hiding Out because I love it, although I do. I watch it because it's just like, you know, I know that at the 46-minute mark, this is going to happen so I can go to the bathroom then.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I have movies like that. I call those my sick day movies. You know, they're movies you watch when you're sick and they're familiar and you can fall asleep while you're watching them. You don't care and you can wake up and still engage with it and be having fun. And
exactly. Like I'm trying to finish, you know, the top 100 AFI movies, but you know, God damn it, Ben-Hur is a fucking investment, man. That is an investment. And I don't like Charlton Heston. Never have, never will. So, you know, because Soylent Green is made of people and you're never going to get that image out of my head. So as far as I'm concerned, for the entirety of Ben-Hur, he's just like, Soylent Green of people, Ben-Hur's people. That's all I hear. You know,
it was Earth all along.
It's him going just unconvincingly, I am a Hebrew. Welcome to this week's episode of Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that does not give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Kris Jensen. I'm a contributing writer at SIVA Weekly, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Evan Cree, I'm stifling laughter right now. But I am editor for The Independent. I am co-chair of BAFCA, and I am co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly, Orlando Weekly, another paper that I can't remember the name of. And they just emailed me today to be like, are you going to fill out your W-9? What the fuck? And I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
Is that why you can't remember? Is that you haven't filled out W-9?
Kind of. Yeah. And it's like a real paper. It's not like from some city in, you know, it's not like Pierre. Is that North Dakota or South Dakota? I don't know. Bismarck, North Dakota. Pierre, South Dakota? Anyway,
yes.
It's not like that. It's not like one of the Dakotas.
Right. But hey, someone wants to pay you.
Right,
You
exactly.
don't have to chase them down for money.
So anyway, that's who I write for. Who do you write for? Okay.
Anyway, this week's episode, it's a weird week. These happen sometimes. Sort of unpredictable when I bet if we looked at a calendar, we could see a pattern for when, okay, studios do not care about this week in the year.
Yeah, the week after July 4th is definitely a big
Right. The last week there's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Next week there's Lion King.
Yeah.
This week there's
fuck all.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Hey.
And if you're looking at a graph, it would be like,
There is a movie that didn't screen that I'm interested in. That's the new Alexandre Aja. Alexandre
I know who it is.
Written by a local, Michael Rasmussen, who is a feature at film festivals and made a lot of local movies. He wrote it. So that's pretty cool. Crawl, which did not screen for critics.
Oh, right.
There's an alligator on it, so I'm into it.
Yeah,
so
well, it's I guess from what little I know, it's kind of a climate. It's a horror movie, kind of, but the horror is caused by climate change.
It's fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
So good, and good bad. So I'll check that out, but we don't have that for you this week. This week I've got fucking Stuber.
Stuber, give it to me, Stuber. I don't know.
But that wouldn't be a very good episode because that movie sucks, and I don't have that much to say about it.
Which is just short for stupid Uber.
I wish that were true.
It's even
Oh
worse
my
than that.
God.
That would be funny. No, this is a guy named Stu who drives Uber.
Boo.
Kumail Nanjiani. We all watched To Catch a Thief.
Yeah.
Yep.
A nice change of pace.
Although I found out that it was used to be pronounced To Catch a Thief, which is really strange.
And it had that like middle English thorn at the end of it.
Yeah.
And Evan, you watched The Murder Mystery.
Evan threw himself on the fucking sword for us.
Somebody had to talk about this Adam Sandler movie that's been on Netflix that people have been
They're
talking
fucking
about.
pushing on it. Every time you turn on Netflix, it's like, do you want to watch Murder Mystery? It's like, no. Do I want to stick a lit cigarette up my ass? No, I don't. The fucking thing is, get this off my screen.
With all these literally named Adam Sandler movies, if there is one where he sticks a cigarette up his ass, it'll be called Adam Sandler Sticks a Cigarette Up His Ass.
Now, that movie I would watch.
Shall we get started with Adam Sandler?
Something tells me you're going to say that it's bad, but it's not terrible.
I think you might be right.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually...
It's not shit.
It's not shit. It's the least shit Adam Sandler movie I've seen in a couple of years, but I haven't seen an Adam Sandler movie since 2015's Pixels. So I've skipped over a few.
That's a really terrible movie.
And
from what I
prior
understand.
to it's fucking bad. And prior to that, the previous Adam Sandler movie I had seen was the original Grown Ups, which I know was also a period of a couple of years. So I've missed some Adam Sandler movies. That said, after not having watched Adam Sandler movies for fear of how terrible they were going to be, this was surprisingly palatable. Shockingly so.
Shockingly palatable.
Yeah.
That's the fucking pull quote.
Incredibly palatable, surprisingly so. That's
Yeah, it's
Evan Green, The Independent.
It's weird. It's an hour and 37 minutes. It's more like an hour and a half. Like, you know, there's a few minutes
Because
of
they've got
credits
to
on
tell
there.
you that it's also in German and Spanish and Urdu and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And list all
Um,
the actors.
It's a little slow to get started. Like, it kind of meanders a bit to the murder mystery part. But, like,
Is there an actual murder
yes. So
in an Adam Sandler movie?
there's multiple murders.
What?
There's multiple murders.
Now, I have trouble understanding why Dave is surprised because it literally
Right.
says it.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, but
No, but I mean, murder
there's an innocence.
singular. Murder mystery singular.
But here's
Not
the thing,
murder
though. When you see
mysteries.
like Bad Teacher, the title Bad Teacher, and then
You
watch
assume there's
it,
going to be some teaching in it.
well,
I wanted to learn something.
but here's the
damn
thing:
it.
is that she's not a bad. It's just like she's not a bad person. You know, it's like what are the other fucking stupid movies that are just like the thing they are, the thing they're titled.
Dirty Grandpa.
Dirty. He's a dirty grandpa. That I get.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like I want to bone young women or whatever he says.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah.
Him and Aubrey Plaza. Disgusting.
Oh man. Well, but here's your chance to act with Robert De Niro, right? Are you going to turn that down?
No.
She insisted
probably
on that
not.
part. She read for another part, but she said, no, I want to be the guy who tries to sleep with Robert De Niro.
Okay.
All right, fair. So Murder Mystery is about a New York cop and his wife.
Is Adam Sandler a cop?
Yeah, he's a cop.
Come on.
And the whole joke in the movie is that he's not good enough to make detective. He keeps failing the detective exam, but he tells everyone, including his wife, Jennifer Aniston, that he is a detective. And so that comes up later in the movie is that, you know, they reveal a secret to everybody like, oh, he's not a detective.
So what passes for a murder mystery?
So he's a cop and him and his wife go on a European vacation as like a belated honeymoon, but basically it's the kind of situation where he's just going to do a really shitty thing for their anniversary. And she's like, when are you going to take me on that trip? And he's like, tomorrow. That was my surprise for the anniversary. And just totally fucking like wings this trip. And they're on a flight. She's a hairdresser and her thing is that she's, of course, into murder mystery novels. So it's like he's a cop, not good enough to be a detective. She reads murder mysteries and she's super into them. They end up on a plane. She wanders into the first class area where she meets Luke Evans, who is this like rich nephew of a billionaire played by Terrence Stamp, who couldn't have been better cast in this role
Yeah.
as like the curmudgeon asshole billionaire guy.
Has anybody ever mentioned on camera to Luke Evans, to one of his characters, hey, you don't have any lips? Are you and Kenneth Branagh related? Has anyone ever said that? No?
No, this also sounds like the Adam Sandler married to someone way out of his league who's also better at what they do than he is.
Yeah.
Yep, it definitely rolls with that cliche. But later in the movie, as Adam Sandler movies tend to do, he steps up to the plate and becomes more of a man, so to speak. I hate using it in that context because I'm not trying to be emasculating, but he becomes a better husband. He takes charge and is like, I'm actually going to try and do something about this rather than just flailing like an idiot and letting my wife do all the work, but giving her none of the credit.
He should really take that to heart when he's making movies. Like, let somebody better than you star in them and write them and produce them and direct them.
And he has done that, I think, with decent results on occasion. So Luke Evans is on the plane and he's like, I'm this rich guy, and like
Did he say I'm this rich guy?
Well, yeah, the flight attendant's like, oh, you can't be in here, this is first class, and he goes, oh, well, I'm this woman's my guest, and she's like, no, sorry, and he's like, well, I'm Charles Cavendish, and she's like, oh, okay, and then like leaves him alone, and they're just like hanging out at the bar, and so it's like the three of them. Adam Sandler is like asleep, wakes up, comes in. And he's like, I'm from this rich family, and I'm going to, when we land, I'm in Spain, I'm going to be on a yacht with my family. And it's just this awkward, horrible situation where my uncle stole my fiance from me, and I'm going to go and I'm going to get drunk and like ruin this family gathering. Like, do you guys want to come with me?
Oh, Luke Evans is saying
yes.
This.
And they're like, no. Adam Sandler is like, come on, we have this whole bus tour. They get off the plane, they see the ratty bus they're about to get on, and they're like, nah, actually, we're going to go with you. So they end up on this boat with all these wacky characters. There's like some African general with an eye patch, this big Russian guy with a beard. There's the billionaire's, gay son who is, really sassy. It's just like, throw in a bunch of rando characters. There's Gemma Arterton is like, some actress, some famous actress that Adam Sandler's character recognizes, and he like flips his shit when he recognizes her.
You know what? This sounds like something that John Mulaney would make up in a stand-up bit to be a movie that you make fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a movie he made fun of in Funny People. It sounds like
That's true. Let's get to the murdering. So they're all here on the boat.
Let's get to the murdering.
They're all here on the boat, and they actually, Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston are there when Terrence Stamp is giving this like speech about how he's cutting all of them out of his will, and he's just giving the money to his young hot wife. And then as he's about to stand there and sign his new will, the lights go out and he's murdered. And so like there's screams, there's a gunshot, and they come back up and there's like a knife plunged into his chest and he's dead. And so that like sets off the murder mystery, and like
I should hope so.
As a cop, Adam Sandler like kind of takes charge, and he's like, we'll do this and that, but like we'll wait until we get to port and we'll deal with the cops there. And so then like more people start dying. Like the gay son is found dead under suspicious circumstances. Like it's made to look like a suicide. And the French cop who's working the case thinks, okay, this couple they're the only two people that don't belong here, so they must be the ones killing everybody.
That doesn't.
And so like more and more bodies start piling up, and it's like, who did it? Is it this person? Oh my God, no, that person's dead. Oh shit, they couldn't have done it. And so it becomes one of those like, we got to race against the clock to prove that we're innocent. So we're gonna have to like slowly figure out this case. And then towards the end, they're like, oh shit, we told the cops to come here because we had this all figured out, but we are wrong. That person is dead now. Let's act like we've got it figured out, and then we might figure it out. So they totally like BS their way into it. They just keep throwing shit at the wall until they finally figure out who actually did it.
Who did it?
Yeah. And then there's like
who
kind of a
fake
out. Well, who did it is Gemma Arterton. She what was her motivation? She was like the illegitimate child of Terrence Stamp, and so she killed everybody else so that she could inherit the money. And then her partner was this guy.
Does Luke Evans end up dead?
Yes.
Oh.
Very dead, very poisoned. Her partner is this guy, Juan Carlos, who's a race car driver who spends most of the movie pretending he can't speak English. And so it turns out that he's
a
in
classic
on it too.
ruse.
Yeah. It's surprisingly not bad. Like, when it's in the murder mystery part of it, it's kind of entertaining, and it, like, you know, it moves. It moves along. Like, there's actually a really funny chase sequence where the race car driver is on the run, and there's this whole line of like antique cars, and they jump in a Ferrari, and not realizing that the driver's seat is on the other side. Jennifer Aniston gets in, and she's the one doing all the driving. And that's pretty entertaining. It's actually a pretty entertaining chase scene.
That's not a bad gag.
Because she's driving and doing a really good job. And as they're getting more and more into it, Adam Sandler keeps getting more and more excited for how great that she's doing, and he keeps encouraging her and telling her how awesome she is and how like great she's doing. And it's actually a really cute moment that they have. Like, he's like, that was like, you were so awesome there, you did such a great job, like, I'm so, you know, like, because later, you know, earlier in the movie he was like, oh, you're just a hairdresser, and he's, you know, he's being really condescending and shitty. And then it's like, here's like, okay, no, I realize that my wife is awesome.
Do you know how hard it is to cut hair?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to cut hair.
It is.
You ever tried to cut hair?
I have not.
Oh.
I think everyone is thankful for that.
Yeah.
They've seen me try to cut things when I was a child, trying to cut inside the lines.
You know, you said earlier that this movie moves. You know what else moves? Bowels. So I'm just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. Does that stick? I don't know.
What gives it away? Is she just the last one alive?
She's not the last one alive, but...
Does she fake her own death at some point?
No, she doesn't fake her own death, but she's one of the people who's... She's not around when the killing happens, the first killing, which throws them off the scent, but then they realize that it was a two-person job because someone had to turn out the lights. So she would have been the other person, and then they also realize that she's the illegitimate child of Terrence Stamp's character.
This
so
is
it's
literally
like, okay.
the plot of a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Oh, totally. Totally.
It's called Who Killed Harlow Thrombey?
And in that way, I feel like it actually is a serviceable murder mystery, because it's like, yeah, okay, fine. It obeys the tropes. It hits the marks, but it hits them. Like, it's in that way, I don't think it's bad. Like, it does what it's supposed to do. Is it the best version of it? No. Is it the funniest version of it? No. But I think it's competent, at least in the way that it hits the murder mystery and has some action, and it's like entertaining enough.
Mm-hmm. What's the old standby? It was very well lit.
It got the gentleman's C, is what you're saying.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay.
I probably won't watch it.
I don't anticipate
Netflix might
that
think that I have if I just turn it on and fall asleep. But...
I didn't anticipate convincing either of you to watch it per se, but I think I was hoping to
watch it per se. I mean, you either watch it or you don't, right? I mean,
I didn't mean to convince you per se whether to watch it, but I think I was hoping to at least surprise you by telling you it's not as bad as you'd expect.
It's not beyond him to make something connect for long enough that you don't hate yourself.
I mean, that's a little longer, but that's a great pull quote.
Wow. Oh, man. That's great. I love that.
So this is one of those. Okay.
All right.
Sold.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it. Okay. I'm going to talk about Stuber.
I feel like this should be a surf movie, like Stuber, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Everything you're suggesting is better than what it is.
You said it's Dave Bautista and who?
And Kumail Nanjiani.
Who is funny.
I like him.
Yeah, me too.
And Dave Bautista is good, and I feel like he's
getting better.
And he's taking movies, I think, to broaden his range. I think he's sort of learning how to act in real time. You know, he's got that wrestler's charisma that you should be a movie star. Certain calibers of wrestlers just belong on screen.
That's why Roddy Piper works, even though he can't act.
Right.
Or couldn't act. I mean, he's dead.
Well, he charismas his way through the movie.
Right.
And so it's that sort of like you cast Roddy Piper the same reason you cast Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then like you stand apart from this whole movie, and for that reason you kind of drag the whole thing behind you. Mm-hmm. Although it,
yeah.
Or in Roddy Piper's case, you kick it in the crotch multiple times.
Well, you're supposed to be a grotesque exaggeration of an everyman.
Right.
So, yeah.
Paul Verhoeven's the only one who knew that.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's
and then
great.
it took us 25 years to figure it out.
And then John Carpenter for
well,
also
sure,
for
right,
Roddy,
you're right.
But yeah, that's those are the kinds of directors that cast those kinds of guys. But Dave Bautista, I think, is trying something a little different, and John Cena is trying something a little different too. They're both
Is he in this too?
no, but
okay.
just the wrestlers
the
becoming
comedies,
movie stars.
the romantic comedies, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is directed by Michael Dowsey, however you pronounce his name. He did Goon.
Doucet? I don't know.
Which I'm told I sat next to our colleague Greg, and he said the Goon was really, really good.
Oh, that's the enforcer, the hockey enforcer,
Yeah.
Sean William Scott.
I heard it was good, and the way he described it was that the impact cinematography in Goon was excellent. Like, you felt the hits. And that's a little true with this. It felt like he only actually directed the violence. Everything else just felt like...
it's like, you stand there, I'll point the camera, go.
I felt like he gave the second unit all of the dialogue scenes.
But that's the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
That's how it plays out. It's like scenes where it's like, why was that shootout? Why was that the guy getting hit in the face with like a fire extinguisher and he blows up? Why did that look so good? And then there's just bullshit in between. That's what this movie plays out like. And so the plot is Kumail Nanjiani plays Stu, who is an Uber driver, Stuber. He is named Stuber by his boss at like a fishing and outdoors kind of like that kind of superstore, like really big chain. That his boss is played by if you watched American Vandal. I highly recommend American Vandal.
He plays with all the dicks on the cars.
Yeah,
right?
he plays the guy who's accused of drawing all the dicks, and he's the kind of character where like that character and that role in American Vandal are so synced up. They're like, how did they find this person? How did they conceive this role after they met him? And so he's in this, and he's not bad, but everybody is just misused, or everybody's natural charisma is leaned on way too heavily to support a lack of development in any other sense. It's that kind of movie, and it's the kind of jokes where, like, even if it was a well-conceived line, you're so bored and annoyed with the movie that you're just like, I'm not gonna grant you a laugh. I will acknowledge that line was not terrible. You gave it to talented comedic actors, but I am not going to say it was occasionally funny, because it's not that.
Yeah.
Wow. This has turned into an intellectual review.
It sounds to me, and this may be a reach, that everyone is supporting this movie like Atlas, but they have shrugged.
That was a reach, but it still worked. It still worked for me.
I was going to try to get into an Ayn Rand pun off. But again, there's somebody who it's like, I will not grant you anything. I will not grant this movie. I will not grant Ayn Rand anything. I will not grant this movie anything. So yeah, he's an Uber driver, and he is called by Dave Bautista, who's a cop, to go. He can't drive himself because he's had laser eye surgery, but then he gets a really hot tip on a guy who killed his partner a year before. So he calls an Uber to pick him up. And
I already don't like it.
So he's essentially commandeered Kumail Nanjiani as his Uber driver. Well, so Stuber looks like probably the same way Murder Mystery looks. Like, it looks like a Netflix movie. Everything is completely lit and fully in focus the whole time. You know? Like, except for when somebody's face gets blown off. Then there's some movement. There's some zoom.
It's Nicholas Winding Refn.
Well, then it's like Robert Rodriguez practically.
Yeah.
But in between, it's like camera A, camera B, camera A, camera B. Mm-hmm. That person's talking. Okay, switch to them. It's like when you're talking on Skype with more than 3 people. It's that kind of editing. Mm-hmm. So the plot is, there's things that bring them to various places, but they all are boring. There's that, like, he's got a daughter who has an art show. He promised he'd be there. She's the reason he has Uber on his phone. Say, like, I'm going to program this, like, you call an Uber and you'll be there because you always have let me down, and for some reason we still have this relationship. Yada yada yada. What else? There's the guy he's on the hunt for.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Luke Evans?
It's not Luke Evans.
Okay. Just asking.
That would be funny.
Iko Uwais, that guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I don't know who that is.
He's the raid guy.
No, I know who he is.
Okay. So yeah, he's that guy, and it's another case of casting him and having him do a bunch of flips and stuff, but you're not following him. Like, you're shooting him like a regular American action star who doesn't really know how to fight. But here's a guy who knows how to flip off of shit. Here's a guy who actually knows how to do the things that you pretend to do in American movies, and the camera doesn't know how to follow him.
Yeah.
It's obnoxious. It's why all the American Jackie Chan movies miss the mark. Like, we can't see what his feet are doing. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? So, yeah, he's on the pursuit of that guy, and then they keep going to these places. A twist that would have been good in a better movie is that
Ooh, Dr. Kris returns.
Dave Bautista, he doesn't have his vision for the first stretch of it because it's right after his laser eye surgery.
Like, literally, he's getting out of this surgery, and that's that point where you got to wear the thing for like 3 hours or whatever, right?
Yeah, so when he gets into the car, he's still wearing those goggles.
Yeah.
And that they played off for like one-off gags occasionally when that really should have been the premise of a whole movie. There's a guy trying to fake his way through being an ace detective when you can't see a damn thing.
Yeah, that would actually be really funny.
That sounds
like
like a
to
good
see
movie.
That movie. I would like to see that movie, and it has to take place only in that period where he can't see.
Yeah.
So
or
it's
like-
almost like in real time.
Yeah, it's like by the end of it, he's like, "Oh shit, I can see again,"
Yeah.
and I still solved the case, motherfuckers.
It's like that movie Blindness, except not.
Not about any of that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happens in this, except they don't use it for anything. It's just a reason for him to still need command.
Right, it's a stupid reason for him to need the Uber in the first place.
Yeah, so that's what they channel it into instead of using it as like a hindrance for somebody who would have solved who would have solved this, within an hour.
Yeah.
Instead, it takes
Now it takes an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, and then there are moments where he has to pretend like he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the good part. That's the part that would have been good in a different movie.
Would have been good.
Right.
Not the good part.
Dr. Chris's prescription is
Yeah.
for more of that plot line.
Yeah, take out all the other shit. There's stuff about his fixation on a best friend who, a woman best friend who calls him whenever she's breaking up with someone and they kind of have a rebound thing, and then he goes back and she goes back and dates other people, and then like when they're on a conversation with it, Dave Bautista is saying one way or another, like you this is not a sustainable thing, where there's like competing notions of what manhood is, what masculinity is.
Sorry, just for clarification, this is Kumail Nanjiani has this relationship, this off and on again thing?
And he can't say anything real.
Okay.
And that's him. He honestly, he created that trap for himself. Like there's the basis for his friendship is false. So that's the kind of like, he's acting like he's being chivalrous when he's kind of being, it's a false tie between them.
Sure.
And like the relationship is not based on honesty or actual friendship. So Dave Bautista is like he's saying it in obnoxious masculine terms, but he compels him to say something one way or another. And there's a conversation that is like, again, it might have been it should have been its own kind of movie, right? So there's these things that like should have been their own movies, and instead they're one scene in this movie. And that's what it is.
Okay. Did they get the guy?
Probably. I don't know. I don't really remember.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to say yes, they do, because that's about when so all seems lost. Turns out Dave Bautista's boss is the mole who gives a shit, whatever, that kind of shit. They're on the hunt for the person on the inside, and he's like, well, it's not me. And his boss comes by and she says like, well, it was me, obviously. And then that's when all hope seems lost. And that's when Stu comes back and saves the day, and they work together as a team.
I see. Well, moving on.
Yeah. That's Stuber. It's fucking like, it's not funny. It should have been. It's not exciting. It should have been. Those couple of action scenes tell me that if they focused on the cop who can't see and had him in these action sequences, it would have been a good like police something.
Okay.
Even if you have it be funny most of the time, even have it kind of lighthearted.
Hey, Beverly Hills Cop works, man.
Yeah. Sure. If
Beverly
they'd gone in
Hills
that direction,
Yeah.
Make it funny without losing its edge, instead of kind of making Kumail Nanjiani saying, "Ooh, that looks painful. I don't want that to happen to me, please." Kind of
as if he's Bob Costas.
right.
Okay.
And I like him. I like everybody
I like
involved.
Him too. I kind of like Dave Bautista. He's all right.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with him.
So yeah.
Okay. Before we rolled, you mentioned that you saw The Spy Who Dumped Me Again, and there was something you noticed about it.
Yeah. Do you remember when we saw it? I think we talked about. Dev, were we all there?
Yeah, we all saw it.
Okay. I think the consensus was, correct me if I'm wrong, that we were annoyed at it for maybe the first 15, 20 minutes. And then after that, we got on board. And from then on, it was like, this is really fucking funny.
Yeah.
Yes. I watched it again, and I didn't have that problem with the beginning. What I think it was I feel like we'd seen a bunch of movies in a row where lesser movies had been leaning way too heavily on Kate McKinnon to do all their heavy lifting.
Right.
And in this one, I think it seemed like it was going to be another one of those.
Ah.
And then, but watching it from the beginning, knowing, like, you don't really see their relationship. This relationship is pushed on you at first. Watching it back again from the beginning, I saw what their friendship actually was. I accepted from the beginning that they were friends and not just two people who were cast in this movie who were supposed to act like friends.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
And then once I knew that, I could focus on how good the action was from the start.
Mm-hmm.
That's some really good action. And I went back to read. I was surprised at how bad the reviews were. That, like, it doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like, actually, I think it really does. I think it was, we were slow to catch on.
I think that people, you don't get the break. I'm going to bring Beverly Hills Cop back into it. You don't get the break that Beverly Hills Cop got. Because is that an action movie or is it a comedy? There is a whole genre of action comedies, some of them quite good, in the 80s. I would argue that 48 Hours is not a comedy, but it just is a drama with some funny moments. And for some reason now, everyone's like, movies have got to decide what they are. It's like, no. Did it set rules? Did it abide by those rules? Okay.
Yeah, this movie started with jokes and started with hard R action from the outset.
Yeah.
And showed where they intersected.
Yep.
And then it went from there. So that's on me.
Okay.
That I said, like, it doesn't start very good. And I take that back. Watch it again, and you'll be into it from the beginning. And then moments that you didn't notice were funny will be even funnier, and you'll get on board even sooner.
All right. Well, I just want to say something really quickly about Someone to Watch Over Me, which is a movie you've never heard of, even though it's directed by Ridley Scott. Came out in 1987, stars Tom Berenger, Mimi Rogers. I've wanted to see this movie forever, just because I've thought, I want to like Ridley Scott. I don't. I don't dislike him. I'm kind of like, you've made some good movies. You've made some real shit. Alien, rock and roll. American Gangster, yeah. Gladiator, bite me. Okay? So I watch Someone to Watch Over Me, and it's one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen. And that's it. It's this story. No. It's a story about this. Tom Berenger's a cop who becomes a detective, and one of the guys he works with, who is also a cop, doesn't know where the precinct is that he's transferring to. That's the kind of movie this is. And then
God.
The first thing that happens is the guy who played Duck in Mad Men gets shanked by the one-armed man from The Fugitive. And
that's Joel Murray,
actual one-armed man?
the
like
one-armed...
the same guy? You're saying this is the same universe?
The same universe. No, same actor.
Okay.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
The Fugitive verse. Turns out U.S. Marshals wasn't the only other movie in the same universe.
And then J. Jonah Jameson.
Are you kidding me? Okay, what just happened? So anyway, so Duck gets shanked by the guy who played the one-armed man, and Mimi Rogers witnesses it. And then because he's the low man on the totem pole, Tom Berenger has to, they've got her on a 24-hour watch because the guy who did the shanking gets away. And so they've got, 2 cops on, 3 8-hour rotations, and he's on the midnight to 8 a.m. or whatever. And, of course, they, fall in love and bone, and then she almost gets killed. And then, the whole movie is just, him following her around and her almost getting killed, and then him being like, I don't know if I should leave my wife. And his wife, Lorraine Bracco, being like, you're a fucker! And then he goes back to her. And that's it.
The end.
Yeah. Well, they kill the guy because he kidnaps Lorraine Bracco and his kid, but Lorraine Bracco's been taking marksmanship classes because she's kicked Tom Berenger out, so she has to learn how to operate a gun on her own, even though she's the daughter of a cop and she married a cop. I'm sure she's never handled a gun, but then she shoots the guy in their own home, and she's the hero.
Ridley Scott I feel like he's kind of the most no-nonsense version of an art house director.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, imagine, combine Clint Eastwood and Werner Herzog. Right? Like somebody who, it's like the script is fine, and then really, really putting a lot of work into like these abstract set pieces, and it's like, the cop falls in love and his wife.
Yeah.
Like
have you ever read like what it's like to work with Clint Eastwood as a screenwriter?
Yes,
it's like
I have,
literally, yeah.
That
story that William Goldman tells about writing Absolute Power, how he just can't fucking figure it out, and then one of his friends, I think it's Tony Gilroy, helps him figure it out, and then he's like, I just don't know if it's very good, and he hands it to Clint Eastwood, and Clint Eastwood calls him the next day. He's like, yeah, I like it. Can you add this one scene? And he's like, sure. He's like, okay, we're gonna shoot in 2 weeks.
Right.
I kind of liked it. Let's just add one more scene here.
Yeah.
I think
I'm getting that story wrong, but that's the gist.
Well, so in Ridley Scott, I feel like that's why a lot of his movies don't make sense in the end, is because
he's done the Michael Mann thing and he's decided he doesn't care about character.
He's moving towards that.
Aye.
I think that's where he's moving towards.
I see.
Is that and ultimately he doesn't care if it makes sense.
Okay, I'll buy that. He also directed that romantic comedy that Russell Crowe's in with Marion Cotillard. So
right.
who knows what he was thinking.
But also,
about
I think that's why sometimes he really nails it, and sometimes when it's like Moses or whatever, you're like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause I think he's a very intelligent guy who really knows a lot about making movies.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, you can't make what he's made if you're not a master in
you can't
some
make
ways.
Alien as your second movie unless you really know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's not an accident. That's not a flash in the pan thing either. Like
Right.
he's really shown what he's capable of.
Yeah.
I just think he doesn't give a shit sometimes.
Could be. I mean, if I were named Ridley, I would just be like, fuck off, because everyone made fun of me my whole life growing up.
He doesn't. He takes his job shit seriously, but doesn't really give a shit about what if people get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So
maybe that's why his company's called Scot Free.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
So I always see what he's up to, but sometimes I'm like, nope.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's someone to watch over me. I mean, if you wanted to see an overview of his career, I'd say watch it. But he's one of those directors who doesn't have a through line per se.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how material it is anyway. So,
okay. To Catch a Thief.
To Catch a Thief, for Christ's sake.
To catch.
It took me a moment to realize. I was like, oh, he pronounced every letter.
Yeah, this is a it's a mid-50s Hitchcock romantic thriller.
It's lesser Hitchcock.
I think so.
But it still works.
Yeah, it does work. It looks great.
It's shot on location mostly, which I couldn't believe.
Yeah, it was surprising to me when it's like, oh, that's rear projection. Like it was more shocking for me when it was stuff I was used to from like Vertigo.
Right.
Right. Than like, oh, they're actually there.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like up in a helicopter or a plane or something.
Yeah.
And like, how hard must it have been to do some like those early car chases? To communicate with people, to get people in the same frame in the shot that you're trying to do.
Well, it's weird too because you see all these like helicopter shots basically of the car chases, and it's like on the one hand, the way that it's shot, it looks like the cars are chasing each other, but if you just watch it, you're like they could also just be driving down the road. Like the footage is like sped up just enough to make it look like they're actually chasing each other. Yeah. It's really funny.
Yeah.
The thing that I noticed, of course, more than anything, and I noticed this in all Cary Grant movies, is how high he wears his pants. Yeah. He's a high pants wearing fucking guy.
I really liked his outfits in the movie. I described his style to Shauna as laissez-faire. He's got like the I'm a cat burglar outfit, but I'm a cat burglar on vacation because he's wearing this sweatshirt, but it's like kind of a loose fitting sweatshirt with like a baggy pant.
And I know that this movie takes place in France, but why are so many of these people wearing stripes? I mean, are you trying to take the piss out of it or what? I don't understand.
It's French people in France.
I know. And here's the amazing thing. So the guy who actually did it, the restaurant owner, I guess he is, Did you guys notice that when he spoke French, it was him speaking French, but when he spoke English, he just moved his mouth and it was dubbed?
It was so badly dubbed.
I know.
I was like, there's no way that voice is coming out of that guy's mouth.
I know.
Well, in the restaurant scenes, that was bad.
Yeah.
Later, though, at the party and stuff, or whenever else they meet up, it actually looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
I don't remember.
But it was definitely edited in that way. It's like we want to cut away from his mouth as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Just so show Cary Grant just listening.
Yeah. The one thing, so there are two things that I really wanted to point out. One, I was super bummed out that Grace Kelly was not the cat. Like
I know. I
figured
wanted
for
that.
sure that she was going to be the cat burglar. And I'll bet you there was a version of the script where she was.
I'm sure of it. I was 50-50 until the party scene.
Yes.
And then I was like, wait, who's missing?
Yeah.
Oh, the girl from the beginning who's really, really into what he does and fascinated by it.
Right. And then I was bummed out that not bummed out. They ate on camera a lot in this movie. And and they actually ate. It's not like they were like faking eating. You know, it's like say they did 7 takes of a scene, they ate for 7 takes. They didn't just like pick at a baguette. It's like, nope, I'm eating this fucking sandwich right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm eating this chicken leg on the side of the road next to a cliff.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, though that's not, there's no take-backs on that.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like
There's
you
no
hear,
take back seats on that.
Well, you hear actors talk about it all the time when they have to eat on camera. They're like, you've got to decide if you eat on camera, if you're going to eat on camera. Because if you do, you might be eating all day, you know? So, like, it's a commitment.
Yeah. And I used to be annoyed when I could tell that there was no actual liquid in someone's coffee cup.
Yeah.
Don't care anymore. I know what you're going through.
Yeah, I understand.
I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Bill Murray ate that piece of cake in Groundhog Day every time. You know? So anyway, To Catch a Thief, it was fun. It was like, and it actually threw me because I was just like, it's Grace Kelly. It's Grace Kelly. It's Grace Kelly. It's not Grace Kelly.
Yeah.
So, and then Joan was like, it's the daughter. I was like, no, it's not. And then it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she got it before me.
And sort of un-Hitchcock in that way where you're like, who did it? Who did it? Because usually you're not thinking who did it with a Hitchcock movie. At least that, especially if you read Hitchcock Truffaut, he enjoyed doing the suspense of the audience knowing everything, but the characters only having limited information. He liked doing that more because he described it as like if somebody's sitting at a table and then they explode, like that's a surprise. But if you pan down and you see a bomb under the table that has like 30 seconds and you pan back up, you're like, 30 seconds, it's going to explode. What are you going to do? And so the fact that this was like, who did it? I have to find out who did it. I have to figure out. That also threw me. Like you watch it, you can tell it's Hitchcock, but that threw me that he made a movie that relied so heavily on that.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I also, the Hitchcock...
I should say I liked it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
I did too.
Yeah.
The Hitchcock cameo was really, really distracting in this one because it's like, usually he's like getting off a bus or he's holding a tuba or something like that. And then, but in this one, Cary Grant gets on a bus and sits down next to Alfred Hitchcock and it's just like, hey, you just sat down next to Alfred Hitchcock.
And there's a musical cue too that goes with it. Like actually the music changes when you see Hitchcock on screen. It's so obvious that it's him, and it lingers on him for like a moment where he's just staring ahead awkwardly.
Yeah. Well, that's why he started skewing it earlier and earlier.
Right.
Right. So that people would get out of the way. People would stop looking for it.
Right.
This is probably in between because this is a very like lingering moment.
It really is. Yeah. What is this? Is 54, 55? I don't know.
This is 55. Yeah.
So, but it's
55.
a good time. Like you could. There are worse ways to spend an hour and 47 minutes.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's hard to top Cary Grant's drunk driving acting from North by Northwest.
Oh, that is a great.
I mean, I was like, damn, how are we going to top that with this one?
North by Northwest is sort of the perfect version of what this movie, of this kind of movie.
Yeah.
And so knowing that North by Northwest is out there, I think if you just go and it's like, oh, the new Hitchcock movie's in town, I'm going to check it out. Yeah. You're not necessarily thinking about the totality of his works. Well, and you think, oh, that was a good time. But knowing that I can just watch, I have two options. I can watch this movie or I can watch North by Northwest. Which am I going to choose? I'm going to choose.
You've seen you haven't seen To Catch a Thief, so in this case you would watch that one. But I see where you're going.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I noticed was I used to think that Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart probably could have been interchangeable in their Hitchcock movies, and now after seeing this, I'm like, nope. Cary Grant played that part, and Jimmy Stewart was the Rear Window rope guy, and they're different characters. Like. Mm-hmm. Cary Grant couldn't sit in that wheelchair and he didn't have that nervous energy that Jimmy Stewart has.
Cary Grant would have been tougher to buy in Vertigo too.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't see. I mean,
but you do have
it would be a cool feat of acting if he could have pulled that off. But
yeah, he would have had a very different approach to the character.
Yeah.
You'd have to shoot the whole thing differently because they take up the screen in different ways.
Yeah.
It might have been. It might have worked as a very different kind of movie.
Yeah.
Or the main character, I can't remember his name, would have had a different kind of energy.
In which Vertigo?
Vertigo.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not Scotty, is it? I don't know.
Jimmy Stewart.
John Scotty Ferguson.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
I think Stewart could have done North by Northwest. I'm glad it wasn't him.
Yes, I think though that Cary, you needed a certain. I don't want to use the word suave because everybody uses that word with Cary Grant, but Jimmy Stewart, I felt like, could do the nervous energy and he could do anger really well. And he doesn't get enough credit for the anger, but I'm telling you, man, watch Winchester 73 when he breaks that guy's arm behind his back.
Yeah.
That's a fucking nasty scene. Or he threatens to break that guy's arm. I can't remember if he actually does it. But you're like, oh my God, he might actually fucking do it. Whereas I can never see Cary Grant being like, I'm going to fucking break your arm. No.
I can see it.
Really? I'm going to break your arm. That was more like Katharine Hepburn, but
there's a fine line.
Yeah. I'm going to break your arm, sir.
So, premise of the movie, shall we?
Oh, yeah. Cary Grant was a cat burglar who got...
Retired.
Well, he got pinched, and to not go to prison, he fought with the French resistance, and then he was told after the war, you can never be a cat burglar again, or we'll throw you in all day and forget the key. And then did he sell out all of his compadres, or did they just also get caught? I don't remember. Anyway, they all work in a restaurant. He's a retired cat burglar. They're all living in the same place in the French Riviera. Yeah. And then somebody starts stealing jewels in the exact same manner as Cary Grant, and of course, les flics think it's him. And so they go after him, and he's got to hide. And then he's like, I'm going to figure out who does it. And then on vacation is Grace Kelly and her mother, who, by the way, plays Cary Grant's mother in North by Northwest.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But which is weird because she was only like 6 years older than he is in real life.
Oh yeah, and there's something like the daughter, who is a French actress. She's like a year or two older than Grace Kelly. Right.
So Grace Kelly is kind of like Jennifer Aniston in Murder Mystery in the sense that she's like, I know who it is. You're the cat, Cary Grant. And well, she's not a very good detective because she's wrong. But she decides she's fallen in love with him, which happens rather suddenly. And then they decide, we're going to catch the cat burglar together. And then they do.
Her change in character was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
When she just sort of decides like, I like this.
Yeah, I'm into this guy.
She's kind of annoyed. She's pent up. She just doesn't really know. She's not happy on vacation with her mom. And then she changes into, I know fucking everything already. Don't even try to bullshit me, dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of love that moment where they're driving in the car, and there's the guys that are following them, and Cary Grant keeps looking behind them nervously, and then like their car crashes or something like that, and he's like, oh, okay. And she's like, okay, yeah, those guys that are following us. He's like, wait, you knew they were following us?
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, duh. I mean, I know that this villa we're going to look at isn't for rent. I mean, come on. So yeah. She did really well turning on a dime like that, but not in a way that made you think like, oh, this is lazy writing or whatever. It was like, oh no, her wheels are like she's really smart. Her wheels are turning the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was good fun. To Catch a Thief was it's minor Hitchcock, but it's even his bad movies, and this is not one of them, are worth watching. Like I don't ever need to really see Lifeboat again, but you need to see it once.
Okay, I will. And
okay. You haven't seen it? I mean, I haven't seen all Hitchcock either, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I've never seen Dial M for Murder, for example.
There's the there's all the silence too.
Right. I've only seen a couple of those.
Right.
But I do own The Lodger. I haven't gotten around to watching it. But as it is inspired by Jack the Ripper, I will have to see it at some point because, I love me a good murder mystery. So,
How do you feel about a mediocre murder mystery starring Adam Sandler?
you know what? Even like kind of lazy, mediocre Hitchcock, and this, I wouldn't call this lazy or anything. It's a little bit different. I think
It's breezier, I think.
It's definitely breezier, and I think the reason that it maybe gets lumped in with sort of the lesser movies, if you will, is because it's just, I don't know. It's because it has that attitude. It's like, we're on the French Riviera, and Cary Grant is suave, and Grace Kelly, we all know who she is, and she was already in Rear Window, which is a better movie. So,
Right.
Yeah, and there's the mystery, but it's not like you don't feel like it's as much of a ticking clock. You're not
Right.
worried about him solving it. You know he's gonna solve it eventually.
Yeah. It's not like
I
a
totally
plane
forgot
is
about
gonna
the 10
shoot-
days.
Yeah, it's not like a plane is going to shoot at him from the middle of nowhere,
Right.
like in North by Northwest,
Yeah, he does have a ticking clock, but you sort of lose sense of that because the movie is them going places and talking.
And then eating on camera.
Yeah,
eating on
and then
camera.
and then at the end there's just kind of a giant time jump when it gets to the party because like several days have elapsed since like he's like we got that party in like 3 days and then it's like here's the party.
It's like, we stayed underground for
We
3
literally
days.
missed like multiple days of what was happening with him because it was so immaterial to the plot.
Yeah. But, all that said, it's just because we've seen the masterpieces.
Yeah.
And then there's this, which is the work of a master, but it's not. It's a little too breezy to be exciting.
Well, it reminds me of what Brian De Palma says in the documentary about him, where he's like, look, people ask me all the time, did I want to make this movie? No, it was the one that I could make then. All the other ones that I wanted to make weren't available to me. And I wonder if this is one of those. If Hitchcock's like, all right, well, the script for the remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much isn't ready yet, so we'll make this one because it's ready to go.
And you could sit down, you could write an analysis of North by Northwest or Rear Window. I guess no. I mean, you could. I'll stick with North because that's the most comparable.
Yeah.
Where this one, I'd be more interested in reading the history of how it got made and the decisions.
How did this get made, you might say?
Right. Something like that. Well, an actual how did this get made? Like where did the story come from? I guess it was based on a novel. The decision to do some un-Hitchcock things like the on-location shooting. Because that was you just don't see some of those moments in Hitchcock movies usually.
Yeah.
So, and just the decisions that were made, filming it in France, Cary Grant, just the actual making of it.
Why are your pants so high? Yeah, sure.
I think he actually wears pants correctly. I think the rest of the world doesn't.
We wear them too low.
Yeah.
I know. You're supposed to wear them that high. But also, his torso wasn't long enough to pull that off. Anyway, we're getting way off track here.
Belly button or bust when it comes to my pants.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna take me a minute to recover from that one.
So there's To Catch a Thief. Check it out. I like the cat stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. I dug that.
It doesn't make any literal sense, but it's
the weird
fun.
green lighting that shows up occasionally.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. And then like the cat like wandering across the roof, and you're like, oh, it's a metaphor.
I literally said that when we started watching. I was like, look, a metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kind of a hit me over the head metaphor, but still, nonetheless.
Yeah. North by Northwest does end with a train going into a tunnel, right?
Yeah. Well, and then this one, when in the sex scene, it cuts away from them, and then you see fireworks going off. So,
Yeah. So check it out. It's a breezy good time. You will not resent having watched it in the slightest. No. It looks terrific. And
it's very well lit. Everything's in focus.
What else we got? There's you talked about
someone to watch over me.
Someone watch over me. If you're a completist,
yeah,
sure.
I mean, and if you are a completist, maybe watch it last, even after Legend.
And then there's Spy Who Dumped Me, which we had talked about on the show before. I give it a more enthusiastic recommendation than we gave it on our earlier review because it's funny from the beginning. Then what about
Murder Mystery?
Murder Mystery.
Eh.
And Stuber? No.
Okay. Active no on Stuber. whatever. If it happens, it happens for murder mystery.
Yeah, I mean, there's worse Netflix originals to be watching. So
Oh, we should mention that part of the reason I watched To Catch a Thief is because it's free on Prime at the moment. So, and I was just like, oh, Hitchcock that I haven't seen, and it's free. So that's why.
But it's weird. It's a PG version, and there's one that's a not rated, and I'm like, what is the difference between the not rated and the PG version?
Probably just one you have to pay for. I don't know.
That or re-release.
Yeah,
right.
Could be.
And this, I feel like this must have been a remaster.
Yeah.
Or like something like that.
Well, it looked pretty good for a movie that probably, the negative is probably in poor shape.
Yeah.
So
I think that's probably the long and short of it is. Sorry to have a boring answer.
No,
yeah, that's cool.
It's because of there was an NC-17 cut. Okay, well, thanks for listening to this episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. You can check out our Patreon where we have an extended conversation about the subject of what happens when people who make art do shitty things and try to come back. We got thoughts.
We do indeed.
And so you can check that out. It's at patreon.com/spoilerpiece.
Don't forget to take our poll.
Yes, and if you are a Patreon subscriber, thank you. If you are not, you can check out our Patreon to listen to that audio and also vote in a poll we have going, which is one of us is going to choose a movie which we recognize as measurably bad, but that we like anyway.
Yeah.
And we will sell it or defend it. And maybe the other guys will end up being on the same page. Hopefully not, because that'll make a better segment. But you can vote on that. Vote for which one of us you want to choose the movie that then ends up being the Patreon segment. And you can vote in all of our upcoming polls too. $10, you can just say, hey, watch this movie, jerks, and we'll watch it.
Yeah. And make sure you call us jerks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not optional. You can find us anywhere podcasts are found. You can give us a call at
862-21-PEACE.
I did that differently than usual, so sorry to throw you off. You can send us an email, spoilerpiece@gmail.com. Everywhere on social media. And thanks for listening to this week's episode. My name is Kris Jensen. I'm contributing writer at Seville Weekly. I'm a member of BAFCA. You can find me on Twitter at @Stuberite and Letterboxd KJensen. That's KJENSON.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm editor for The Independent, co-chair of BAFCA, and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living. And you can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly, Orlando Weekly, and you can follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies. Yee! Not the yee part. Just Dave Sees Movies.
Yeet.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.